Three, two, one,
Zero.
zero, and liftoff. Liftoff. Americans return to space as Discovery clears the tower.
Welcome back to TTM Trades. Oh man, I'm so hyped today. Good energy today. Welcome back to TTM Trades. Hey, we're gonna jump right into it. We're just gonna go over a couple of stocks. I didn't make a video yesterday. I haven't really been making videos as of lately due to me going out to sea, etc., so on and so forth. Tweaking some of my scanners, changing them up, looking for momentum, volume, different types of combinations of things. So, I haven't really been active as far as my YouTube and on stock tweets and everything, but, everything's slowing down now. We back in action. So, the ticker ANY call. So, we posted back on the 21st at 7:21 p.m. We said, hey, we need to keep a super close eye on ticker ANY for continued gains, and finally had to break out. As you can see here, sitting at 69 cents, so roughly a 40% gain. Hey, did TTM Trades jump in that one? No, I did not jump in it, but I did see it, and it popped up on one of my scanners, and I didn't jump into it too bad. But hopefully, you all had the chance to get in there and make some profit if you did. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of go over. Like I said, man, I've been tweaking scanners, messing with them, going back and forth over a couple plays that I've been posting in our private, I don't want to say private chat room because anybody can join, but in our chat room, our Discord chat, and just kind of go through a couple of them. We'll go through some charts real quick and kind of go over the Bollinger Bands and how I trade them real quick. Just a little bit of information here and there, nothing, no specific topics, but we're gonna go over some stocks and a couple plays that we talked about. So RKDA, we said back on the 29th, there was a possible reversal in play. So looking at ticker RKDA, we seen that it was pulling back. It was on this, downtrend, running right along that Bollinger Band. 2 deviation, was constantly getting rejected by that 10-period simple moving average. Finally had to break above it on high volume, and then of course on the pullback, the volume was very low, which signaled consolidation. So once we seen that the 10-period moving average was holding, and it was consolidating right on top of it on low volume, there wasn't any major selling volume to show that this was going to change. Then it started looking like a slight continuation pattern for a small breakout, and then it began breaking out up to 1150. So with the Bollinger Bands, you always want to play the bands. All right, overall the stock is still in the downtrend. As you can see, the Bollinger Bands are pointing downward. I do not use a 20-period simple moving average. I keep a 30-period on mine, so the 30-period moving average is still pointing downward. So overall the trend is still in the downtrend. So what we want to do is we just want to play for some quick profit. So hopefully you got in right around that $9 to $10 range. We just want to kind of run this up to the 30-period moving average, sitting right around 1248 to 1250, lock in some profit and get out. But we are definitely not trying to play this a long term. Now, if you break above that 1250 on high volume with a full candlestick, meaning from bottom to top the candlestick is full, and it doesn't show much selling pressure at the top of it, then I would probably play it for a hold. And see if we can run it up into that $15 to $17 range, right up in here where your next Bollinger Band is coming down for our next profit target. But you definitely have some momentum behind it. As you can see, your RSI was kind of trending between this 10 and 30-period moving average. As you can see, showing the consolidation, and then finally had to break out, right? So just kind of keep an eye on it. First, we want to play that 1250. If you get a strong breakthrough on the 1250, then I would start looking at the next Bollinger Band right around $17. What else was we talking about? So based off the new scanner, these were some of the ones that I posted on my stock tweets just to see how they would do, because stock tweets has this pretty cool feature to where if you post certain stocks, right, it'll print them from when you post it, like here, then, and then when you go back and look, it'll print what the current price is of the stock when you go back and look at it. So all of those stocks we posted here, what was that, yesterday, as you can see, stock twist is pretty slow. and we're just going to look at these real quick to see how they are doing based off the scanner we ran. So we posted these yesterday evening, and for the most part I think a majority of them was in the green. The way I ran this scanner, it was more of a reversal scanner, like a rebound type scanner. Stock coming down, it hits a certain point, and then it rebounds and continues to head back up into that uptrend, or heads back up to retest the prior high that it reached. So for the most part, based off the scanner, you know, you got 4% here, 1% here, 1% here, 3% here, 7% here, 4% gain here, and then a couple minor ones. I'm not going to go through all of these, but I just wanted to post these to see how these do in the next week or two based off what the scanner was showing me. All right, plug PLUG. So we said a possible 185 bounce, as you can see there. So with plug, so let me explain the Bollinger Bands, right? So you know the bands pretty much widen and tighten based off the price action, right? So as you can see here, you had this pretty wild gap downtrend, right? So in turn of that, the last high was here right around 321 with a print right around 217 as the low. So the bands have widened to reflect that volatility within the stock. Now from that low up back up to these highs, you can see it printed up to 252, 226, 259, and then the price action kind of went flat, staying consolidated in that general area. So the bands began to come in and tighten, constrict based off the low volatility within the price range, right? There weren't any wild swings. So normally when the bands constrict like that, that's saying that the price action is at its lowest volatile point, and sooner or later the bulls and or the bears have to take control. One is going to overpower the other. So as you can see here, the bears overpowered the bulls as far as selling and taking profit, and then it went on this mean downtrend. Now, how do you know a stock is coming out of a downtrend and or uptrend, or is gaining strength and or momentum? One of the ways to kind of glare at that utilizing the Bollinger Bands is when it's riding that bottom Bollinger Band, a lot of the times to test the strength of the bulls are by what they think is the bottom, and or you know, a certain area where they think is a fair price, and then the price will run back up into that middle Bollinger Band, right? And then when it pulls back, if it pulls back past the 1 standard deviation Bollinger Band, mind you, I use a 2 standard deviation and a 1 standard deviation. If it pulls back and it breaks back below that 1 standard deviation and it pushes back down into this outside Bollinger Band, then that shows weakness among the bulls to maintain that price action, and that a possible downtrend could continue. Now, if it runs into that middle Bollinger Band and it pulls back and it holds above the 1 standard deviation, then that shows that there's some strength, that the bulls are coming in and they're buying the shares as the price action pulls back, and they're holding it in a certain area. And then you'll get this nice run up. So again, you get this run up to 213, right? A print of a new high, and then the price action begins to pull back. Now it pulls back into that lower Bollinger Band again, but immediately the shares are accumulated, and then it runs back up, right? And then as it runs back up to retest that middle Bollinger Band, as the price action pulls back, instead of pulling back into the outside 2 standard deviation Bollinger Band, it pulls back into the 1 standard deviation Bollinger Band, once again showing strength of the bulls accumulating shares. And then you get this nice run up as far as a short term uptrend. And then as the price action begins to pull back, right, because the bulls and bears are always testing the equilibrium, like what are the fair share of prices, what's too high, what's too low, right? There has to be an equilibrium between the two. So as a lot of profit taking is happening here, as the prices begin to pull back, they begin to consolidate right around that middle Bollinger Band, which is very bullish. Now me, I was looking for a possible 185 pullback into the 1 standard deviation Bollinger Band, which would still show the strength of the bulls, but So as it began to pull back, I was looking for a pullback into that 185 area, right where the one standard deviation Bollinger Band is at, and some consolidation candlesticks, and for the volume to kind of lighten up to show that the selling pressure is going away. And that would show that there's still strength from the bulls as far as accumulating shares. Now, let's just say it didn't lock into that 185 Bollinger Band and begin pushing down into this 172 on high volume, then that's a sign that a possible downtrend is beginning, and it shows weakness in the bulls. So it didn't even pull back into that 185 area. Is that still a possibility? Yes, because as you can see, it's closing below the middle Bollinger Band. Now, if it holds right at the middle Bollinger Band and the volume continues to decrease, then that shows that the selling is decreasing and the bears are moving out of the way, and the bulls are buying the shares in this general area for this price to begin running back up and create a higher high to continue to show the strength of the bulls. I hope that made sense. Right, so that's how I trade the Bollinger Bands. Okay, so I'm still looking for that 185 pullback to this 185 area. If it does not pull back and it holds right at that middle Bollinger Band, right about 198 to $2, then that's even better, because it shows the strength of the bulls, and you know the price action is going to reverse and continue to make another higher high, right? But normally my confirmation for the break to begin heading higher is a break above that 10-period moving average, which trails the price. Okay, that's normally my confirmation, along with my indicators that I use to give me a clean confirmation. But right now it's holding at 195. As you can see, per this little candlestick here, there's some back and forth between the bears and the bulls, and then right here it made a higher low, which showed that the bulls didn't allow the bears to even push the price lower. So we'll wait a couple more days for confirmation, and then we'll decide whether or not we make our entry. All right, but that's ticker PLUG. All right, next we talked about ABIO. So perfect example with ABIO. All right, so ABIO, as you can see here, was on this downtrend again. Remember, I told you, as it rises that outside Bollinger Band, the bulls will try to show strength by accumulating shares once it comes to a price range that they think is fair. It pushed up into that middle Bollinger Band, which shows some bullishness. And now what we do is we wait for the pullback. Now, as it begins to pull back, we want to see, once again, does it pull back to that outside Bollinger Band and goes below it, right? If it pulls back to the outside Bollinger Band and closes below it on high volume, then that shows weakness in the bulls to hold the price action up, right? But as you can see here, it pulled back into that one standard deviation Bollinger Band on the inside, and then immediately began running back up. That shows the strength of the bulls. Now you get this nice gap up. I'm not sure if that was on news. More than likely it was, with immediate profit taking, with a major sell-off. And then instead of it running all the way back down to the bottom, it holds above that one standard deviation Bollinger Band for some consolidation and some price taking, and just the bulls and bears going back and forth trying to decide whether this is trying to find that equilibrium again. And then finally you get this sell-off of a lot of profit taking, and then again, look where it holds above. It holds above that one standard deviation Bollinger Band, which again correlates with the resistance back in this area. As you can see, that was resistance, and now it's holding that support right where that one standard deviation Bollinger Band is at. So what we want to see is that this one standard deviation Bollinger Band holds currently right at 51. Give it about a day or two, or maybe even the rest of the week, to consolidate right in this area. And if it holds above that one standard deviation Bollinger Band, then again, what does that do? That shows the strength of the bulls for a possible reversal to head back up into this high where the 2 standard deviation Bollinger Band is at, right around 65, which is where the price action is having issues to close at, right? So easy play. If it holds, then you play the bands from 52 to 65, lock in the profit. If it breaks above 65 on high volume, then you re-enter to retest these highs up here, right? But this is how we trade the Bollinger Band. So right now, as I said in the Discord chat, good entry on ABIO, falling right back to its support. All right, we already talked about RKDA. There, symmetrical triangle forming for a possible continuation breakout, middle Bollinger Band acting as support, which is very bullish. So let's go look at ticker DARE. So I posted this one last week. As you can see, ticker DARE, again, nasty rundown, riding that band all the way down. Finally, the bulls said, hey, right around 74, this is a good price. they begin to accumulate the shares. They try to run it up into that middle Bollinger Band to show some strength, right? And then as it pulls back, guess where it pulls back? It pulls right back on that 1 standard deviation Bollinger Band. 2 or 3 days of consolidation, and then you get that gap up, right? Which shows the strength of the bulls, right? Again, here, the bulls tried to do the same thing. You get this nasty rundown, right? They start accumulating shares. They can't even run it up to the middle Bollinger Band. It doesn't even get close, which that shows the weakness of the bulls. And then with that weakness, the selling continues. All right, so same thing here, runs it up to that middle Bollinger Band. You get the pullback right on the 1 standard deviation, the gap up on high volume, and then as the price action begins to pull back, it pulls back on the middle Bollinger Band, that 30-period moving average, right? It doesn't even pull back into the bottom 1 standard or the bottom 2 standard. So that shows strength among the bulls as far as holding it above that 30-period moving average. Now, with that being said, you got this nice symmetrical triangle forming here. If you look, because you are creating higher lows, right where the 30-period moving average is at, it's ticking upwards to show that the momentum has shifted. You're creating higher lows right on top of that 30-period moving average, and you're creating lower highs. So you're forming a symmetrical triangle. Now, what is this? What is this continuation pattern? Anybody know what that is? That is a flag pennant, right? So what we are waiting on now is the breakout. Will this break back down to the downside and retest that 97, right where the 1 standard deviation Bollinger Band is? Because that correlates with this old area's line of resistance right here. Support, resistance. If it breaks down out of the symmetrical triangle, it will come back down and retest that 97, the 1 standard deviation Bollinger Band as support. If that 1 standard deviation Bollinger Band fails, then that puts you back down here in this area where this line of support was at right before the breakout. All right, but what we want to see is which direction does this break out. All right, so if it breaks below the middle Bollinger Band, then that's a sign of weakness, and we need to see where the where the bulls decide to come in and accumulate these shares. If it breaks above that 1 standard deviation Bollinger Band right at 121, then that shows strength in the bulls. And if it begins pushing into the 2 standard deviation Bollinger Band right on the outside continuously, then that shows strength for a possible uptrend. All right, so I would definitely keep an eye on ticker DARE, because you basically have a flag pennant forming right here, and or symmetrical triangle, whichever one you want to call it, and the price action is getting tighter right in that corner, and the breakout is pending. All right, what's next? Ticker ANY, we already talked about that. That's why I went back and edited this and said already happened. It already broke out for its continuation. Even with, well, we already, okay, now these are the ones I just posted not too long ago, maybe an hour ago. So now I'm looking at ticker XXII and CREG. So let's talk about ticker XXII. Oh man, I posted this one way back in November when it had this initial run up, and I have not paid attention to this one ever since because it's been on a very bearish downtrend and the bulls have not showed any strength. Mind you, remember I told you, you get this nasty rundown, it hits that bottom Bollinger Band, it runs up to test the middle Bollinger Band, and it doesn't find support anywhere in the 1 standard deviation. Again, it pushes below it, which shows weakness. The bulls try to come back and rally again, retest that middle Bollinger Band, and then again it pushes back into the lower Bollinger Band. This is why the bands are constantly pushing lower and lower. All right, just imagine somebody stumping the floor and they're pushing the board lower and lower. That's why the bands, as you see, each time it pushes lower, the band pushes lower with it, that top band. Each time it pushes lower, the top band pushes lower with it. It's following the price action. All right, but yeah, again, it pushes below that 1 standard deviation Bollinger Band. The bulls try to rally one more time to retest that middle band, and then instead of finding that support, it pushes back into that Bollinger 2 standard deviation, constantly showing the weakness. Finally, the bulls rally right around that $2 area. And why would the bulls rally around that $2 area? Well, it only makes sense because that's where they last rallied prior to this uptrend. And now the bulls are coming in and saying, hey, that old line of support held where, oh my God, I cannot talk, you all, I'm so hyped. That old line of support held very well, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people had their buy orders right in this general area. So immediately hits that old line of support back here right in that $1.95 to $2 area. The bulls rally past the middle Bollinger Band, pushes all the way up into the top 2 standard deviation Bollinger Band. Play the bands right, take profit. Immediately profit is taken, and then as the price action pulls back, where does it pull back to? On top of the 1 standard deviation Bollinger Band, and you even get a break above your 10-period moving average. Right now alone, this not pulling back into the 2 standard deviation Bollinger Band and pushing it to it shows that the downtrend momentum is beginning to shift. Right, so we're either moving in one of 2 stages. Either we're moving into a consolidation stage for ticker XXII, with it pulling back and holding above its 1 standard deviation, to where you may get some. This is where you start to play the bands, right? And what I mean by play the bands is you make your entry on the 1 standard deviation Bollinger Band, and you sell at the 1 standard at the top or the 2 standard at the top, right? We're going into a consolidation period right here at the bottom, and or we're either about to start an uptrend phase again and retest these highs. So either the bulls will rally and they will push back up into this 2 standard deviation Bollinger Band at 245 and take profit, and or they will push into this 245 band and make a higher high, which will cause the bottom band to curl upwards and will cause the top band to kind of curl upwards, to kind of reflect the volatility of the stock shifting into more of an uptrend. And then once you begin to see that, then you know the bulls are trying to come back in and they're accumulating the shares in full strength. But no uptrend runs directly like this. It'll always be a up, pull back, up, pull back, up, pull back each and every time, right? So same thing will happen here. You'll get that run up, pull back into the 1 standard deviation Bollinger Band, another run up with the bulls showing their strength, and based off of the price action pulls back, if it pulls back on the middle Bollinger Band and gets another bounce, that shows even more strength in the bulls. If it pulls back into that 1 standard deviation, then it still shows strength but not as much, right? So you just got to pay attention. But ticker XXII is definitely on my radar. And anytime a stock is beginning to shift in a bullish state, it will operate in that 40 to 90 window as far as the RSI. So looking at the RSI, we'll just do a quick markup here. I don't want to get too deep in the RSI. That's a whole different lesson. All right, so looking at the RSI, it was in this very bearish downtrend. That is why I was having issues breaking above 50, as you can see here. 50 rejected, broke above 50 but still couldn't hold, rejected, tried to break above 50 again, rejected, and now it broke above 50. And as it pulled back, guess where it pulled back to? Right in that 40 area as support, right? Anytime a stock is operating or beginning to operate, or the trend is shifting into a bullish trend, it will find support right here in that 40 zone. It'll find support on the 50 and or the 40 area, and it'll begin to trend back up. So looking at your RSI, as you can see, it found support right here in that 40 area, made a low, high, made a higher low, created a higher high, and that's showing you that the momentum is shifting. And it even broke above its moving averages, which is another bullish indicator. So we'll definitely keep an eye on ticker XXII. Next, ticker CREG. I think the same exact pattern, and this is why I'm watching this one. Ticker CREG, again, same thing. You had this downtrend, held on the 1 standard deviation, which is why you got that push up here. And then again, as it began to pull back, bands beginning to constrict due to low volatility, the bears took over, had that nasty rundown on that 2 standard deviation Bollinger Band. Nowhere did it even retest the middle Bollinger Band, so it continues to run down. You run up to retest that middle Bollinger Band, instead of pulling back to find support on that 1 standard deviation, again it pushes all the way back down through the 2 standard deviation Bollinger Band. That is why your bands are widening and pushing downward. And then again, the bulls come up, start accumulating shares right in that 131 price range. They push up to retest that middle Bollinger Band, and then as the price action pulls back, it finds support right on top of the 1 standard deviation right here, which is very bullish. You get that nice run up and breakout, a lot of profit taking. Then as the price action pulls back, where does it find support? on top of the middle Bollinger Band. So again, we've been getting denied by the middle Bollinger Band, which is that 30-period moving average. We got denied here, we got denied here, we got denied here. Finally, you get the breakout with the price pulling back. It did not pull back on the 1 standard deviation and or the 2 standard deviation. It pulled back right on top of that middle Bollinger Band, which is showing strength in the bulls and consolidation. This is why your 2 standard deviation has begun to curl up and flatline sideways, because it's showing that the price action is now in a consolidation period. That's why the bands are sideways. It's no longer in a downtrend, and it hasn't quite started an uptrend. It is now in that consolidation phase. So now, one, with it holding above the middle Bollinger Band and it's trending above its 10 period moving average, then this shows the strength of the bulls, and the price action is beginning to push up. So right now, you can see the bands are getting played to push into the 1 band, profit taking, push into the 2nd band, profit taking, right? In order to begin an uptrend, it needs to break above $2.07 and hold. And then as it pulls back, the bands will adjust and curl upwards to show that that volatility is pushing into an upward trend. And then as you start working that upward trend, then it'll start working its way up. But right now, I'm keeping an eye on ticker CREG. As you can see, we are now in that consolidation phase. Right now, support is right at 168, where the middle Bollinger Band is at. If for any reason that fails, then you got the 1 standard at 148. And then again, a push back down into that 2 standard at 129 would be a very bearish move. Again, with your RSIs, we talked about, anytime a stock is in a very bearish trend, as you can see here, rejected by that 50. Again, rejected. As it pulled back, had that nice run up, and as it pulled back, it found support in that 40 to 50 area with another break above its 2 moving averages, and it's beginning to trend up to creating a higher high above this previous high right here. So this one could possibly be breaking out to the upside for some profit taking. And last 2, risky, but we'll keep an eye on VT sideways consolidation, possible breakout, RSI holding above 40. So let's look at ticker VT. So as you can see here, had this nice run up, and then as it pulled back, right, it hit the 1 standard deviation on 2 different occasions. As you see, the bands have widened due to this volatility. I mean, literally, it peaked out at 840. And then it bottomed out at 65 cents. So that's why your bands are so wide. Now that the price action is coming to an equilibrium between the bulls and the bears, and it's consolidating, the swings are getting tighter. So as you can see, you had a swing from 65 to 267. Then you get a swing from $1.30 to 275. Then you get a swing from 156 to 195. Then 158 to 175. It's getting tighter and tighter. So since the swings are getting tighter and tighter, the bands are getting tighter. So that means low volatility. One or the other has to take over sooner or later. The bulls or the bears. So who's going to overpower who? So that's why I said this one's a little more risky, but I would definitely keep an eye on it because it is holding above its 1 standard deviation Bollinger Band. You need a break above the middle Bollinger Band to show even more bullishness, which is currently at 178. Get a break above that 178 and start pushing into that 1 and 2 standard deviation Bollinger Band right around that $2 to $2.15 on high volume, then that would show a breakout to the upside for a possible uptrend again on ticker VT to retest these highs back up here. So I would definitely keep an eye on that one. Mind you, with the RSI, we haven't tested that 50 yet. So remember, a break above 50 with a pullback and hold is a very bullish sign. All right, but I would definitely keep an eye on VT. And last but not least, ticker TRVN, solid reverse on play 178 to 214. All right, so ticker TRVN, again, same scenario, nasty downtrend, a run up to test that. The middle Bollinger Band actually breaks above it, pulls back into those lows below that 1 standard deviation. And then the bulls immediately accumulate the shares, boom, push it back up into a higher high, pulls back into that 2 standard deviation, find the support, run up, pulls back again, run up, and now it's pulling back and it's holding above its 1 standard deviation, right, which shows strength among the bulls. It broke above its 10-period moving average, which is trending down, and it's creating higher highs as you can see currently. So you got a high of 211, then you got a high of 230. Again, you got a low here, and you just created a higher low. So hopefully you push back up to create a higher high. But I just said play the bands until you get a breakout on a solid uptrend from 178, which is where your 10-period moving average is at, up to the top band right around 214 for a quick profit. Now you get a break above 214 on high volume, then I would look to continue to hold, but just play the bands, lock in some quick profits until this one decides what it wants to do. But you can see it is on a long consolidation pattern here, pending a breakout to the upside. But yeah, man, that is it. TTM Trades. I just wanted to go over a couple of these stocks that I've been watching. If you learned anything, hit that subscribe button, leave a comment at the bottom. Till next time, man, let's continue making money together. I'm out.
Houston, Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.